In this video, we're going to be breaking down how exactly you can optimize your metabolism on carnivore. Now, on carnivore, you're probably going to lose a lot of weight anyway. However, at some point, you may hit a weight loss plateau, and these tips will be super helpful so you can speed your metabolism up and lose that last bit of fat with relative ease. Now, for the purposes of this video, we're going to define metabolism as how many calories your body burns. Now, the vast majority of your energy expenditure comes from something known as NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, essentially, what this is all the little movements. When you're talking, your hands are moving. When you're sitting, your legs bouncing up and down. Instead of sitting down and watching Netflix all day, you decide to go out and do some gardening, that sort of stuff. Now, this may not sound that important, but over the course of the day, this can equal to 1,000, even 2,000 more calories being burned if you're more active. Now, most people have very little energy because their entire body's inflamed. When you eat processed garbage, every single cell in your body becomes inflamed. In particular, the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. So when you're on carnivore and you remove this inflammation, what ends up happening is your NEAT increases massively. This is one of the many reasons why carnivore is the most effective fat loss diet in the world. The first tip is that exactly. Avoid foods that are still considered carnivore but are somewhat inflammatory. When you eat nothing but beef, salt and water, your energy levels skyrocket. Like genuinely, the amount of energy I have all day is ridiculous. When I'm at the gym, I often catch myself pacing up and down in between sets. I don't even mean to do this. I just have so much energy, I struggle to stand still. Now, I'm sure everyone around me thinks I've got something wrong with me, but when you think about it, how many calories is this burning? I don't even mean to be doing this, but walking up and down all day, that is going to massively increase your NEAT. And as we mentioned earlier, your NEAT can increase your calories burned by up to 2,000 calories per day. So avoiding these inflammatory foods is going to make a massive difference. Now, some examples of these inflammatory foods are things like chicken and pork. The vast majority of the time, I'm talking like 99% of the time, these animals are fed a terrible diet, full of grains and these pellets, which just, the ingredients in them, it's not even food. It's actually hard to comprehend this is what they give to them. Because these animals aren't like ruminant animals who have multi-chambered stomachs and can process the food down so it's not super inflammatory by the time it gets to their flesh, leaving their meat pure and okay for us to eat. What ends up happening is all the stuff ends up in their flesh. So when you're eating chicken, when you're eating pork, you're essentially eating all the rubbish that they feed it. Now, if you can somehow find wild pasture-raised chickens or wild pasture-raised pork, you can eat it absolutely fine. But for the vast majority of us, this is not an option. So if you absolutely want to speed your metabolism up, I would avoid these animals and stick mainly to ruminant meat, as well as dairy. When dairy is pasteurized, it messes with all the proteins in it, which makes it inflammatory. However, I want to emphasize, you do not need to do these things to lose weight. This video is just on how to optimize your metabolism. So if you're still losing weight, don't worry about these things, ignore what I'm saying. However, if your weight ever plateaus, remember these points. The second tip is that you need to eat enough. Remember that on carnivore, you don't need to starve yourself. On this diet, you can eat till you're full and you'll still lose weight with incredible ease. Now, there's no such thing as starvation mode like some so-called diet experts like to talk about. However, what ends up happening when you don't eat enough is that you have virtually no energy. And guess what happens to NEAT when you have no energy? You end up sitting on the couch all day, watching Netflix and doing nothing. And then what ends up happening when you cut your calories super low is you end up getting in this battle with human physiology. And unfortunately, that is a very tough battle to win. I'm sure we've all experienced after a few days, maybe a week on a low calorie diet, you just get ravenously hungry. And even after having a decent sized meal, all you can still think about is food. So then what happens is after a few days, you end up eating 3 days worth of calories in a single sitting. However, for the last 2.5 days, you haven't moved, so you have no NEAT. If you just had eaten all that food spread out over 3 days, your calories would stay the same, but your NEAT would be much higher, so you'd end up being in a calorie deficit overall. The third tip is to gain some muscle. Muscle has incredible metabolic requirements, and even just gaining a small amount of muscle will mean your total calorie requirements increase exponentially. Meaning that if you do the exact same things over the course of the day, by having muscle, you're going to burn a lot more calories. As well as the fact that it just logically makes sense. Let's say you lose all the weight, all your fat just melts off. What are you left with? Nothing but skin and bone? That's not what you want to look like. Gain a little bit of muscle and you'll thank yourself for it. The final tip is to get a hobby. Now, to be completely honest, if you follow the other 3 tips, you don't really need to do this. This is just more of a bonus one. However, getting a hobby is just a great idea. There's genuinely no reason why you shouldn't. Because you're on carnivore, you're going to have so much energy, so you may as well put it towards something that you enjoy. Now, what could you possibly do with your time that will bring you as much enjoyment as playing a sport or even just going for a 30-minute walk in nature? It's literally a win-win. You get to burn calories and you get to do something that will put you in a good mood. Now, if you're the CEO of an S&P 500 company or you're a single mother with like 17 children, fair enough. I understand why you can't do this. But if you're just the average person who comes home and sits down and watches television all night, you may as well pick up a new hobby. It'll benefit your life in many ways. So, in summary, ignore everything I said if you're doing well, if you're still losing weight, but if at some point you plateau, think about these things. Avoid the dairy, avoid the chicken. Eat enough, gain some muscle, and then with all this new energy you've got, do something that you enjoy. It's literally that simple. If you have any questions regarding anything about the carnivore diet, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of my content, consider subscribing down below. It's completely free and it means you'll see more videos like this. I've attached above a video I made the other day, which breaks down 31 reasons as to why we know that humans are carnivores. So if that's of any interest to you, check that out. Thanks for watching.